of kind of Fnatic of old too, where they were split pushing and they always had these high-yielding plays that they were honestly breaking the meta with.
Now, pick and ban phase here, so important in these Fnatic games because, again, they are so unique in how they draft. G2 Esports, I'm expecting a LeBlanc ban to come in as well, so you have Shen LeBlanc being removed.
Yep.
Unless Perkz wants to first pick it. That can be the only way I see LeBlanc being left open by G2.
And of course, you can see on the bottom of your screen, Caps' lost champions. A very wide champion pool. Remember, G2 picked blue side in game 1 of this series. This may give Caps the opportunity to counterpick.
Yes, but there's 2 champions really missing there. It's the Orianna that Fnatic have consistently been banning out themselves, and the Syndra that has found their ways to Caps' opponents very often. And obviously, on a player like Perkz' level, leaving Syndra open for a strong blind pick early isn't something you want to do, and therefore Fnatic, for the first game at least, are taking it off the table. Yeah,
when Fnatic played G2 in week 10, they actually gave Perkz the Syndra multiple times. They ended up losing that series in the end, but they had some answers, like Echo was one of them. Won't really see it here due to Syndra being gone.
And a big question coming into the series was, is G2 gonna target out the comfort picks like the Shen and the Cannon, or are they going to put a lot of onus on the matchup for Broxah versus Strick and remove maybe an Elise, maybe the Lee Sin early on? Now, Broxah has his pick of the litter, so we will find out if what Amazing said is true. Can Broxah shape the jungle matchup in his favor with one of his comfort champions?
Yeah, Fnatic is a team that relies a lot on the early game. So the fact they can get either Elise or Lee Sin is very good for them. But I do want to talk about that adaptation from G2. They don't ban Lee Sin to give Elise over. They just leave both of them open. They change them and say we don't need to try and target him if he's going to get a good early pick anyway.
Of course, so options available for both Trick and Broxah. Let's talk about the Camille. First pick here for G2. We've seen Soaz, Caps, and Jezzes playing it. Jezzes in particular really shining on that Camille last week against H2K. Fnatic, they will lock in the Gragas and Elise as a response.
Gragas is just a super strong pick in the top lane. You saw G2 think about Rumble. Fnatic themselves haven't really trended towards the Rumble too much lately, I feel, and been avoiding it. Better to play Soaz on a tank. G2 will now have the risk of obviously losing that Rumble in the second ban phase, because you don't want to reveal Rumble and Camille, for example, in the first 3 picks. You need to use that flex opportunity from the Camille.
Now, obviously, the picks are coming in pretty fast. There's a lot of story to each pick here in this matchup. G2, Graves, it is the #1 pick for Trick, and Orianna is the #1 pick for Perkz as well, so they are locking in pure comfort. Same thing on the side of Fnatic though, it's just not the meta comfort picks like Aurelion Sol we see from other teams, but it is a pick for Caps that worked really well against H2K.
And also bonus points, because we now get to find out why was Caps and why was Fnatic so afraid of this Orianna pick that they were constantly banning it out. Have they finally learned how to play against it? And how comfortable is Perkz in the matchup versus Aurelion Sol? Because barring a few one-tricks in solo queue, you are not going to run into this champion very often.
A good thing for G2 is the fact that they've been able to scout Fnatic for a few weeks now. It's Fnatic who had to take a very tough road towards this semi-final. First, they almost didn't qualify for playoffs. They had to show everything against Misfits. Then against H2K, same thing. So it's a lot of tape for G2 to watch, and they've been able to see this Aurelion Sol as well.
And how well can G2 respond? If you look at phase 2 bans, gentlemen, Ashe, Caitlyn, Kalista off the table. Thresh taken away as well. So Reckless and Sven, Ezreal is still up there. It's high priority in meta-wise.
And in this marquee matchup of Sven versus Reckless, Denmark versus Sweden, you can also see that the styles they're banning out, it's such a polar opposite. You have Ashe, Caitlyn, Varus, the push, poke, lane bully AD carries that will get removed of Sven. And on the other side, you have the strong lane bullies in terms of trying to get solo kills in lane in the Thresh and the Kalista banned out by Sven.
I think we're going to see Ezreal Karma. Sadly, they locked him in before I could say it, but...
What a surprise! They're picking push poke.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, this has been such a stable lane for G2. You have really good early levels. You can push in the Fnatic bottom lane. But once again, Fnatic are saving last pick for Reckless. This is not a Vayne game because she will struggle in the laning phase.
Because of the Karma.
Because of the Karma.
Not because of the Ezreal. Because last week against H2K, we saw the matchup into the Ezreal, and it actually works fine if it's into the Tahm Kench. But if you face a range support, you need something with a little bit more distance. Even Twitch is risky here. But at least you have the all-in potential. If you stack a few poison clouds on a target that gets snared, you can't stand and fight against that as easily on the side of G2, because you're just stacking poison upon yourself, and you're literally going to end up dying if you fight too long.
And it's always important to highlight that Fnatic, they don't play 2v2 bot lane. They play 3v2, 4v2, 5v2 bot lane. So these picks like Twitch, where it looks crazy they're picking it, especially last week against the Caitlyn Zyra lane.
Yes.
Because they call down the jungler, because the mid laner roams down, they pick these fighting lanes and they actually get out of them.
And the attention is just so centered around bottom lane because Caps' Aurelion Sol, remember who he did in the greater tough times. Like, he would just push out mid and constantly roam to side lanes. And they're not going to roam towards Soas and expect. They're going to roam to the bottom lane. So Mithy and Sven, they want to be ultra prepared and have a defensive posture to always account for a potential jungler. And that's going to creep into their minds. Even when Jesus makes a mistake in lane, the first thing Mithy and Sven are going to do is assume that somebody is nearby to punish them.
And of course, if they overcommit, maybe that's where Fnatic find their openings. Fnatic for the last 3 weeks have had phenomenal early games, and absolutely everybody's talking about the impact that Broxah could have. His Elise last week showed that he was not only a one-trick Lee Sin on this stage.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's where Fnatic will be looking again. Will Broxah unlock Caps Reckless this series like he did last week? It's going to be more difficult.
I think it's safe to say Fnatic can be very happy with their draft.
All right, very happy with the draft. Will their fans be very happy at home? It's G2 Esports taking on Fnatic in game 1 of this best of 5 for a spot in the finals at Hamburg. Ladies and gentlemen in Berlin and around the world, put your hands together for the first European LCS semi-final.
Yeah, Wildwater rides on his early game. Can Caps make a dent in just the early push, get a quick few bases off? Can they roam bottom? Can they get the bot lane snowballing? Or is Trick going to just abuse the jungle matchup by honestly farming every single time Broxah goes for a gank and eventually just outpacing him in terms of gold and experience?
Yeah, let's zoom out and just like look at Fnatic and why this early game is so important. The playstyle they have does not rely on like getting a one-on-one solo kill in the laning phase, but it relies on having very mobile champions who can show up in any lane almost at any point. Things like Twitch coming in stealth and Aurelion Sol flying over a wall, and suddenly it's a party in a lane. And if you do not communicate it or expect it, you just get surprised.
And that is actually something G2 historically have struggled with. When teams did the unexpected, when there is like a global agreement on how the game is played, which is kind of called meta, and teams go against it, even CLG, for example, at MSI, like that's where they struggle then. If Reckless starts basing and showing up in random lanes almost on Twitch, if they don't push out the right lane, if suddenly there's an Aurelion Sol in the bottom lane, can G2 deal with it? They've had the chance to scout Fnatic for well over 3 weeks now. They've played against a similar style against Fnatic 3 weeks ago. They should be ready.
Well, let's find out if G2 are ready. In the mid lane, Caps already going to use that Celestial expansion just to push and zone, but that's what Aurelion Sol is good at in these control mage matchups.
Yeah, it's really hard to deal with an Aurelion Sol level 1, because Orianna obviously only has Q. You can't punish him as hard with auto QW on Orianna to proc that Thunder Lords or have more wave control. So level 1, Caps will dominate. He wants to get 1 creep ahead, which is the one that he's getting right now. Then he's level 2, and now Perks can get zoned really heavily if Caps want to do that. But obviously Caps can't play too aggressively either, because there's always the risk of an early game.
Now, when you have Aurelion Sol and these early lanes where you're pushing in, it opens up for your jungler to always path in towards the enemy jungle. Potentially look for a steal of a camp, maybe look for a fight, because then Aurelion Sol will join. Early on here, though, Broxah is doing his blue buff, and he's not really ready to go into the enemy jungle.
Yeah, I want to highlight the ward that Caps just placed, because it's not in a lane brush next to him, because that's not how Graves is going to gank him. If they're going to gank, they're going to assume the brush to the left of him is warded. That's why he places it at the entrance of his own Raptor camp, because any jungler will kind of try and surprise you from behind, so it's a really solid ward placement. And this is something we have to know about Caps. He's very aware of where junglers can come from, and especially also how they interact with blast cones. Like, he'll walk into his own jungle, kill his blast cone. You had some highlight plays of it too. He seems as a very smart player in that regard. I
guess that's part of the reason that Fnatic did invest and build on Caps this split. He's showing up towards the end a little bit more than the beginning, but you've touched a lot on this, you know, Trick and Broxah setup. Expect is shoving into the top lane. Broxah, if he wants to gank top, there is possibility, but look at his minimap placements.
He's basically repelling over to the blast cone. If we can get the camera down on the Elise, just repelled over to it. But these 2 wards here on the bottom side from G2 are very, very well placed, because they will see either the invade into the jungle or the path down to the bottom lane. So Trick knows Brox is on the way and we'll spot him again.
Brox is in so much trouble. Gonna have to flash over the wall. Makes it. Here comes Sven. First blood for Sven. And he gets doubles.
And this is a problem now when your play style has been the same for a few weeks and you have really showed other teams that you want to play around the bottom lane. So G2 set up really good defensive vision and they spotted this Elise as soon as she entered the jungle.
Yeah, now this bot lane just breaks. I wonder if Fnatic is even returning to this lane or just goes for a swap on the map, because double buff Ezreal is so incredibly hard to deal with, because he basically gets a tier for free now built in that blue buff and a red buff where you can poke. Sven could technically go Sheen and try and just abuse the hell out of this matchup.
That's the important thing to add. This dual lane from Fnatic is supposed to win through help from Broxah, but when G2 then spot him, find him here and kill him, it now means this Twitch lane is going to struggle even more because it needs the jungle to help.
Yeah, and Broxah was trying to find out what was going on with the Raptors in G2's jungle, and he revealed himself on a ward. And you can't do that against a fast clearing jungler like Trick, because he was already done with his clear, and Graves is the one jungler that takes 0 damage in the jungle while clearing. He was already finished with all his camps. And Broxah took too greedy of a path. He wanted to gank and get vision, and he got punished for it by Trick.
Fnatic in the last 2 weeks, every single game they won, they managed to snowball the early game very effectively, often through really good ganks from Broxah. Then Reckless would have the split pushing AD carry, he would be all over the map and they would just make these really aggressive plays. This game now they're down 500 gold and the bot lane is obviously struggling, something we haven't seen in a while. I want to see how Fnatic bounces back.
Yeah, especially when you look at the itemization, gents. Sven with the Cull as well as tier already. You mentioned Broxah and the impact he's had over the last few weeks. I actually want to take a look at some of his stats, specifically his jungle proximity in wins versus losses. And Broxah, up until the last 3 weeks, really was very active in lanes. You can see 40% jungle proximity, good kills plus assists at 15 minutes in their wins and losses. And it got even better in that BO5 against H2K.
Yeah, Fnatic need him to have a mark on the early game for them to have a good game. So in those games where he gets a lot of ganks off, his team will repay it in kind by snowballing and then by ganking all these different lanes. But right now, Fnatic, they're under so much pressure. You could see Reckless was half HP in the bottom lane after 2 Qs from Sven.
I mean, Broxah is strong enough to carry 4 members early game, and then later on the 4 members get together and carry him forward. And that's kind of the style they've been working for them, and why Elise is such a good pick as well. Now, Caps is level 6. This means Aurelion Sol in a skirmish can be very, very deadly with the ulti. You can set up ganks with him as well. We haven't seen Caps really leave the mid lane.
Yeah, but he pushed out, checked every single bush for a control ward, and then went back to the mid lane.
Ooh,
now Broxah's in this bush. Faces.
Wow. Very, very close. Caps playing, again, very forward. Gonna get down a little bit of a stun onto Perkz. Very good trade. And loses a little bit of HP on the back end.
Here's the thing, though. The longer Perkz and Caps just trade against each other in mid, the better it is for G2.
Yes.
G2 have the scaling mid laner who does not want to leave his lane. It's Aurelion Sol who needs to get around the map.
Yeah, and look at what G2 is doing here. They're not attacking the opposing members directly, but they're attacking the strategy that Fnatic want to use. Caps walked into the river to check those 3 bushes for control wards. He walks out, and now the river is filled with a Scuttle Crab and a new control ward. He can never roam to bottom lane for free.
I also want to highlight that whenever the Fnatic bottom lane recalls, Sven and Mithy, they just instant push bot lane. The reason they do this is because if Fnatic go for the lane swap, like we have seen a lot the last 2 weeks from them, then Fnatic will be pretty far behind on getting to that first tower, and G2 will take the tower first.
Well, gentlemen, we're approaching 8 minutes into the game, and I think it feels like we've covered from the junglers down very well. What about Expect and Soaz in the top lane? There's Camille into Gragas. It's a farm lane for now. Is Expect just going to be trying to play on the side lane and maybe deal with some of the sideway pressure that Fnatic have proven to be very good at in the last few weeks?
Yeah, in this particular case, though, it's not Fnatic drafting the classic 3 split pushers, where you have to be as strong as their strongest member. He will have to be careful in mid-game for Reckless and Soaz pairing up together and trying to lane gank.
Exactly. That's the thing about Fnatic's combos we talked about earlier. It's about moving around the map, like fast. Sometimes unseen as well, yes. Like with the Twitch and Aurelion Sol, it's hard to ward against Aurelion Sol roams. So it's not about, as Mitch just highlighted there, Crepo just highlighted, the pure let's win in a side lane. It's push a side lane and then move. Go 5 members top lane, 5 members mid lane, surprise G2. It's hard to surprise people though if they can see you the entire time.
Oh, Shockwave onto Caps. Just sending a message, but look at how many wards G2 have littered in the river there. Caps can't move without G2 really seeing everything.
And what Perkz does there is it's a really good trade against Aurelion Sol. You just do auto Q W, and then you just instantly ulti, because if he pops his, he expands his Celestial Reach, the W, you should know what it's called. It instantly snaps back, and then there's very little damage left to trade back. Really good trades onto Caps like that.
Really good trades onto Reckless and Jesus.
Yeah, they're suffering. This is the weakness of Twitch in general, and Zyra makes up for a lot of it if the lane stays even. But that early kill and double buffs really swung it into Ezreal's and Karma's favor, and if the balance starts tipping a little bit, it gets progressively worse over time.
There's a reason we don't see a lot of Twitch around the world, because he can struggle so much in the laning phase. Fnatic obviously found ways around it, but not in this game, and that's due to G2's really strong early vision. Let's see if they can spot Broxah again. This time he's actually walking around a control ward. He's not noticed just yet, but if he goes bottom lane, they have wards.
But there's also a beauty to this stubbornness from Fnatic, where they keep going back and back again to the bottom lane, and eventually they can surprise. He has to go to the blast cone now and hop off. Yeah, great move with the repel. Eventually, Fnatic can still make this 5-man bot lane party happen and surprise G2. That's why they always have to be on their toes. You asked earlier, Trevor, will Soaz be fighting Expect? No, Soaz is looking for a push into a teleport play bottom. That is the way Fnatic want to break open this matchup.
It's very hard for Fnatic to actually take that bot lane fight at the moment, with Reckless always getting poked down a little bit. Now he's full HP, he's level 6, there might be an opening. But at the same time, if G2, they know that's the only play in the book, they should be ready.
They should be ready, but Karma doesn't have any defensive steroids at level 6, right? She just gets a little bit stronger at what she already does, and that makes her a little weak. Now Caps gets poked out. Yeah,
Caps took a lot of damage. Remember earlier, he used that ultimate just to clear the wave. Perkz with an insta cleanse, running for his life. Caps is going low. Exhaust onto Trick, under the tower. Red goes down!
The exhaust from Caps just saved the day.
A lot of nice plays, though. The little flash from Trick out. This was a high-level exchange here.
Small moves suddenly mean a whole lot in a skirmish like this one. Trick likes to walk into the lane and assist when it comes to getting some damage on towers or pushing out the lane. They thought they had that kill on Caps. Bot lane, though, is now under pressure from Fnatic.
Yeah, mid lane and bottom lane taking a ton of damage from G2. However, Soaz is doing well to push out Expect in the top lane. Here's a replay of that mid trade.
What you definitely want to look for is Caps. He misses the stun, so now G2 to go on aggressive because it's about cooldown trading, right? But then Broxah comes in, Perkz takes the cocoon on purpose. Reckless is stealthing.
This is big though, 4 members bot lane.
For the root, not gonna find anything. Stranglethorns is available for Jesus. Look at the damage from the spray and pray. Mythy goes down, double kill Fnatic.
G2 Esports had everything under control. And then the mid lane fight happens where Caps and Broxah, they win the skirmish, and instantly they return and they roam.
But we've also seen greed from G2. Because Sven and Mythy went for an aggressive tower push because they knew both mid laners got chunked out and had to base, right? They knew the map was theirs for maybe 10 or 20 seconds. And they capitalized on that with a lot of damage. But then they got too comfortable in that bottom lane, and they did not expect Fnatic to so aggressively go back to this bot lane play that we have been talking about. And that's exactly what Fnatic does. Even though you know their strategy, they're so good at just consistently keep trying for it.
It's a game that fits both styles here. Fnatic always looking for the kills, and G2 Esports trying to play the control style. And now, yes, they lost 2 members, but they still have 2 towers, mid lane and bot lane, extremely low. That is a lot of gold waiting for G2. Yep. And the answer for Fnatic is to try and get another fight before G2 gets to those turrets.
They're sending Reckless to a potential mid lane gank, but you saw how Perkz was pulling back, right? Until he knows where Reckless is. He knows Twitch is missing, I do not extend in lane. Because if Perkz dies, he loses his mid lane turret. All G2 need to do is play this familiar, slow sieging style right now and cash in the goal that they've been setting up.
Here's Aurelion Sol once again moving down. We'll just get the honey fruit, but that's again the pressure. It's always on the bottom lane.
And if you look at the vision this time around, Caps only spots it out towards the end of that lane. I keep looking whether or not G2 can consistently control the vision. That's how they don't get surprised, really, against the style of play where Fnatic just want to gank multiple lanes.
But it's super fascinating how all these events worked in together. You have that fantastic combination of plays there early on. And maybe another one right here. Broxah getting poked out.
Good cocoon onto Mythy. Here comes Perkz. Shockwave is available to him. Sends Command Protect onto Trick. Comet Surge at least gonna look for a small stun. No further catch onto Broxah.
Because that early exchange of kills in the mid lane triggered a reaction in the bot lane that then triggered another reaction by Fnatic where they caught G2 off guard. Is G2 ready for it now is the question. Can they keep Fnatic on lockdown? Can they control them?
I would like to see Perkz actually go back and get a control ward here because there is only one from G2 around that mid lane. It will be enough now because Fnatic's wards just disappeared, but they will go back down and replace them.
Talking about wards, you can see on the bottom half of your map a ward just timed out from Fnatic. It was just below the Krug camp.
And those wards are vital. Getting teleport deep wards for SOAS, if they go unspotted once, could again break open that game. You can lure G2 in a false sense of security and then punish them.
So once again now, the play for G2 is these two outside turrets with almost no HP left, ton of gold waiting for this G2 lineup. And the problem is, whenever you push forward, Fnatic looks for that little overextension and then they will attack you instantly, being it bottom lane with Aurelion Sol roaming down. Mid lane tower is easier to get for G2, so I want to see Trick just join Perkz and put more pressure on this tower here because no one can roam from Fnatic bottom lane unnoticed, but Aurelion Sol can quickly join the bottom lane fight.
Well, Trick is backing away from mid lane. You're not going to get your wish just yet to Fisher.
It's okay in 30-40 seconds as well.
Okay, all right. We'll let it slide for a little while. It's 15 minutes in, gentlemen. Even game as far as gold is concerned. An extended laning phase here. But Fnatic are losing control of those towers on the middle and bottom towers. And here comes Trick. 30 to 40 seconds in.
That's my boy. Get in there.
Holding Perkz' hand.
Tax that lane, by the way. It's probably Perkz who baited him into the last fight. Getting some revenge. He actually left all the CS for his mid laner.
He's been trained well.
Yes, he has adapted to the European style.
Get mid lane ahead?
Yeah, just get mid lane ahead. Just feed the mid laner.
We haven't really seen Broxah have a huge impact this game. It feels like G2 have read him relatively well. Do you start to panic for Fnatic that they don't have a lead, that they're on the risk of losing towers yet?
But he's not going for the super risky build that he usually does, right? He sometimes goes all in on the mobility boots. He still was involved in that mid lane play. Honestly, that got him back into the game. If he would have lost that exchange, then yes, then he would have been punished super hard. But so far, he got caught out in the enemy jungle once by a ward, but he played well in the following exchanges.
He definitely did. And getting 1 kill, 1 assist to 60 minutes is okay. You obviously want more than Elise. Now, this is what we all want to see. Trick into this mid lane. Because, again, the bot lane can't really roam. Only Jessis is here. You can see Reckless is moving. They're fighting. Yeah,
teleported from behind. Broxah's already got damage onto Miffy. He gets taken out by the ultimate from SOAS. Perkz flashes away from Caps' ulti 2 and Fnatic get a kill.
And there are so few teams that will punish G2 like this. Every time Trick shows up there with Perkz, they think it's already done. And now Reckless is stealthing in the bottom lane, but Sven, as well, is a great duelist early on. So even if you jump him, you can land a lot of damage in your face. But this is such a smart teleport by SOAS. And it shows you if you want to beat Fnatic in this style, you need expected teleport.
Oh, Sven! Caught by the cocoon! Look at the damage! He's down!
Broxah just hit 2 extremely important cocoons here. The one in the mid lane, Mithy had flash. Had he flashed it, that would have been a teleport for a flash, nothing else. Bot lane, same thing for Sven here. But Broxah, he hits it. That's 2 kills for Fnatic. That's bot lane tower. This was supposed to be G2 getting the early turrets. But 2 stuns from this Elise. Look at the one here on Mithy. Look at Mithy. If he doesn't get hit here, if he does not get hit,
then they walk out. And then SOAS comes in, and Whereas expects teleport. Like, they're going for kind of a turret-defining play. Then your top laner should be ready to join. And I think that is one of the weaknesses of G2. They probably ask, do you need help? And they're like, no, we're fine. Usually this turret always falls for free.
Yes, the play in itself was correct, but the execution was off. That's what we said. As soon as they push, Fnatic, they're ready, and they will just strike instantly.
And every time Fnatic strikes instantly, they've managed to come out ahead. They're fighting the bottom lane, fighting the mid lane, fight behind the tower. Take a look at this. Mountain Dragon, Tower First Blood, 5 kills, and nearly a 2,000 gold lead. Here's a lane swap from Fnatic.
Yeah, and look at this turret. 60% remains. They're trading this for maybe a 10% turret in the bottom. This is just cheating what Fnatic is doing. It's all about this early plays. Now, SOAS is under pressure in the mid lane. Expect came in, but Caps is holding on.
Yeah, Caps is. The explosive cast from SOAS bought a lot of time. Flashes expended from Expect. Cleanse for Perkz. There's the tower trade, 1 for 1, and Reckless is not leaving yet.
Yeah, but nor is Sven in the bottom lane here. This could be an extended trade for tier 2 turrets.
Well, let's see who's ahead right now. Both teams actually very, very even. We have Jungler joining on the bottom side. For Fnatic, Broxah is not there yet, so it's only 2 members pushing. G2 will get this bot lane tower as well, and it might just end up being another trade. Caps is on his way, but he's very far away.
Caps decides to back away. There's still some pressure from Expect in that mid lane tower. It ends up being a 2-tower trade. G2 managed to get themselves bottom lane, and while that's going on, just before Baron spawns, Broxah's going to pick this up. I anticipate Reckless will grab it.
And the reason they can take this objective as well is because it was Fnatic who got the kill bot lane, who killed that first tower and then could recall and go up to the top side. So they were slightly ahead, and that Broxah, obviously not having to go to the tower, could just go straight for Rift Herald.
And he's also playing Elise who can solo the Herald, because you can pop your spiders, turn it around, and pop the eye yourself. If you have to solo Herald as one person, it's almost impossible unless you have things like Shaco boxes, Shaco clones, or Elise spiderlings to turn that bad boy around and then poke him in the eye. Okay,
there's 5 towers down in the last few minutes. There's a Twitch, an Aurelion Sol, and Elise on the map for Fnatic. Are we waiting to see how they assign their lanes, or is G2 just going to commit to this mid tower? It feels like it for now.
Well, now the game gets
really hard
and really annoying for G2 in many ways, because Twitch is unleashed. And Reckless is really good at finding the correct lane to gank. And he was so successful against H2K. I want to see if the communication from G2 can handle that. Because you got to call miss all the time and try and predict where he shows up.
Yeah, this is where we can judge whether G2 Esports can count to 5. Unless you see all 5 dots on the minimap, you should assume that the one missing dot is in your lane, in stealth, behind you, trying to kill you. Because that is how Fnatic in the mid game generate so many advantages.
I find it so interesting that you look at G2 Esports, you look at Sven and Mythi, 2 of the best players in Europe, if you look at the history as well of the European LCS. And then in a series like this, on stage, when it really matters, they get both hit by CC with flashes up, and it cost them bot tower to push in mid lane. It cost them so much that Broxah hit 2 cocoons. And it set up the snowball for Fnatic.
And it's not even Broxah hitting them, it's Broxah showing up in positions where G2 do not expect him to. That is also like, they're so used to playing conventional League of Legends. Like, why is this Aurelion Sol here all of a sudden? Sven is probably thinking, with the GLP, he's not used to playing against this, and Caps may get a kill.
And he does. Caps made that look easy.
Remember when we said that Fnatic's comp is not about like this pure split push style, it's about being mobile, it's about constantly showing up in lanes.
Oh, look at this! Perks is shut down, Mythi follows, Fnatic are looking at tower number 4. Hell, they might even get more.
It's honestly beautiful to see Fnatic come in with a new style. They're not bound to the meta, they're not meta slaves. And they're breaking up. G2 knew about this. For 3 weeks, they've seen this Fnatic play exactly like this, and they are still crumbling.
All Fnatic needed to do was take the leash off. Go full animal style. Embrace the mayhem. They have a 22-minute Baron, 7 kills up, 7,000 gold nearly, and it all comes from these plays.
If you do not see all 5 members on the minimap,
assume they're coming for you.
Exactly. Caps walking from base, Sven obviously not expecting an Aurelion Sol over the wall, and this is just a great ulti from Soaz into multiple Fnatic members, and it's such a good setup. They need a small advantage on the side of Fnatic, and they just punish G2 instantly.
And these guys, they don't randomly show up in their lanes, because we're looking at it, but the way they generate these advantages is that they push up a side lane and then disappear. Soaz pushed in that bottom lane, Expect was dealing with it, then Soaz walks all the way around, shows up mid lane. And now with Nashor, this style is even more rapid. They can push more lanes much easier, much faster.
And I know the Fnatic players call it animal style, but this has actually just been very good macro from Fnatic. Like the setups they have with the pushing lanes into then roaming, understanding where to go, Caps with the kill up in top lane. Broxah responding when his towers were under pressure on Elise. That's just good understanding of where to be on the map. And they've been the best team in this game.
And if we step back, that style, it didn't start with H2K, right? We mentioned it very lightly earlier, but this is now 3 weeks of consistent, I'm going to use the word animal style, but I don't like it, but Fnatic style, where they've been refining it, practicing, embracing it, and it looked the best against H2K, and they're doing it again against G2.
Exactly. A lot of people thought that the hype came just from the 3-0, but as you said, it started way earlier, which is why we can say it is a legit play style for Fnatic. and not just a one-off.
And it's incredibly hard to play against this, especially if you're a team like G2, who throughout the season forces teams to play the same style that they do, but worse. This will come across as chaotic, and we've joked about chaos style for the Unicorns in the past, so I don't really want to use that word, but they're constantly switching things up.
All right, Perkz is going to get away with the cleanse. Trick is knocked back by Soaz. The tower seems to be the focus for Reckless. Perkz is down. A voice of light sends him packing. True shot barrage tags Soaz and Caps on the way out as Fnatic knock over their 6th tower. There's nothing left in the lanes.
And Perkz looks safe. How often do you play against Aurelion Sol, where he can literally blast you from what seems to be 2,000 range with that ultimate? That's exactly what they're doing. They're playing these champions that they're not used to playing against, in styles that you're not used to playing against. That only works in solo queue, where you think if they do this against my team, it is not going to work.
Oh, let's give some praise to Soaz on this Gragas here. Some very good engages, and then it's the Caps show all of a sudden on Aurelion Sol. Perkz flashing what he thought was away, out of range, but obviously Aurelion Sol ulti will always get you in the very end.
And Sven, he's been a teamfight AD carry that outputs so much damage in teamfights. He arrived at the show when it was already over, because he had to catch that wave that Soaz pushed in the top lane.
I mean, let's just talk about the fact that the matchup to watch was Sven versus Reckless. In this game, it's not been about Sven or Reckless. It's been about Broxah, Caps, Soaz on the side of Fnatic. Yes, they played it around the bottom lane, but it started in the mid lane. It was in the mid lane they got an advantage and then moved that down to the bottom lane.
Well, how do Fnatic adapt now? They got a 10,000 gold lead. They need to break over those last towers. Safe until the next Baron, or try catch G2 out of position.
I mean, is G2 going to be out of position? They seem to be pretty turtled up here. Fnatic, they're still playing with respect though. They are not face-checking random brushes here.
Respect, looking to engage. Waiting to see if he threw the ultimatum down, but found no targets.
That's why the whole animal style that Finley himself said, by the way, is so unfortunate of a name. Hang on, Sven.
All right, gonna trade damage. Reckless losing out on this one. Blade of the Ruin King comes down, spray and pray. Sven is gone. Reckless wins the fight. Redemption heals up Fnatic's remaining members, and Caps is roaming from mid.
It's such an unfortunate name because this is such a beautiful, well-executed style that requires constant communication and honestly being in synergy with each other. Because if one guy missteps and goes for an aggressive pick-off and you're not there to help him, he just dies.
Well, Fnatic gonna look for the engage. Look at Trick. He's bounced all the way backwards. He gets dropped as Broxah repels into the air, buying as much time as possible. Flashes out to safety. The inhibitor tower falls. G2's base is broken open. Soaz still holding on to that GA, and he's gonna have the support of Caps. Voice of Light yells, "You are dead." The inhibitor goes down. Expect gets eaten by a body slam. Fnatic are making this look flawless.
And coming into this series
They stunned my color casters.
No, we were taking a small break. We were chilling. The fight is over, Trevor. Here's a replay. We can talk about that. Crepo, what do you want to say?
Yeah, that if you don't kill Twitch immediately, don't try to run away from him. Stay in the fight, because
1-0 Sweden so far.
He hurts.
Reckless taking down Sven here. Obviously, one guy had all the towers and Inferno Drake and stuff.
And 2 items. But it seems like Reckless every week is trying to find a new AD carry that they can build. Blade of the Ruin King, Runons.
I mean, that's almost every AD carry in the world right now. We saw Jinx earlier today, also Blade of the Ruin King Rush. So
forces people to hit wards.
Exactly. It feels like as long as you can build Blade of the Ruin King.
But like it's the Frozen Mallet though that matters. That's where Reckless goes off a little bit different.
That's his unique one.
That's the unique one.
Very unique. But it's interesting with the Frozen Mallet. He clearly feels he has enough damage already, and getting that slow plus extra HP does help him a bit.
Here comes Caps and Reckless. Thank you for the vision toggles. Reckless not spotted out by G2 as they're pushing down the lane, but you can be safe to assume he's there.
And Caps right now is just really annoying. Like this guy, you want to walk up to him, but you constantly get smacked in your face with these little 3 spinning orbs, and then you try to step into him, and then he slows you with Rylai's, with the GLP. He trades mana and health based on damage taken and given. It's super annoying to play against Aurelion Sol.
Well, they're going to try and kill him.
Aurelion Sol is locked inside the ultimatum. Trick and Miffy are getting hammered on from the backline though. Sven keeps throwing out those mystic shots, and Fnatic, they get engaged on, but they get the kill.
And I'm just gonna say it. This is exactly like watching G2, their very first game at Worlds against CLG. We're coming into a G2, we're like, okay, we are the top team. We should play the standard game of League of Legends, and it should be enough to beat whatever cheese or animal style the other team brings to the table. And then a few things in the early game
go wrong.
And suddenly they just fall so far behind, and their composition breaks down. It seems like, you know, Camille's not even been in this game.
Because they keep reacting in the standard way against a team that is just simply not playing super standard. Like, they went for a group siege in the mid lane. They weren't surprised for Fnatic to push back. Now Trick's getting caught out.
He is indeed. Spray and pray should send him packing. Shockwave onto Reckless, takes a lot of damage. He's gonna potentially catch Perks, just runs out of ultimate. Caps doesn't have that voice of light, I believe, and decides to hold on to it. Look at this. Inhibitor tower now being focused down. No defense from G2. They're at a numbers disadvantage. There's a Baron available to them as well if Fnatic want to peel away.
It's 14-1 in kills. G2 Esports in 29 minutes picked up one single kill. And that's on Sven. Nothing else. They've really not been in this game for the last 10, 12 minutes because Fnatic have just been snowballing it perfectly.
We were talking about Sven versus Reckless, and in terms of kill participation, I think Sven is definitely pulling ahead here. 100%.
Thanks for taking my line. I'll do that one. And first blood as well.
That's the only positive G2 will find in this game here. Now they're forced to face it constantly because Fnatic is playing better around this Nashor with Vision Denial.
I mean, a few more things to add as well here. G2 Esports, they picked blue side for the first game. They went with this first pick, Camille.
Witty's in the pit, by the way. I don't know how he got there.
Why is he in there?
They got the dragon at least.
Did he get blast coned in? Yes, he must have.
I guess someone would try to run away with the blast cone and he went the other way.
Or Soaz knocked him in with the ulti. No, Soaz
ulti's still ready.
Alright, he got blast cone baited.
It will forever be a mystery.
Who was it? I think it was Caps in the kitchen with the blast cone.
I like that. Pluto reference. Fnatic now with Baron. I mean, this is just beautiful. And for G2, now they have another game of experience against this style. Remember, G2 played against this Fnatic in week 10 and almost lost that series.
Yes.
And now Fnatic will have side selection going to game 2. It feels like a matter of time before they knock over this Nexus. Look how aggressively Soaz is playing.
G2 also spent the last 2 weeks watching this Fnatic style, preparing for this Fnatic style, coming up with a draft for this Fnatic style. And then G2 Esports still got caught with their pants down, which is really a bad thing if you're G2 Esports.
It's really hard to break habits. Like when they're sieging mid, they think it's free. Care for our side lanes. Our opposition is trying to cross-map us on a side lane to take the similar turret. Then suddenly they TP in, they cocoon in, and you find yourself literally surprised. And Fnatic is so good at constantly forcing these plays that even though you know it's coming, at one point you just slip up.
And I'm just happy to see that this Fnatic playstyle just keeps showing us that it is so legit and they're playing it so well because it's so fun to watch a team playing this fast-paced. And they're going for another one.
Oh, they are indeed. Trick almost gets caught by the Stranglethorns. Look at the Celestial Expansion. A lot of damage going on to G2's members. Spray and pray. Reckless gets a double kill. Make that a triple kill. Perks, the last man standing under the fountain. Fnatic get the Nexus turrets and the Nexus. Fnatic fire first in Europe's first semi-final.